On November 21st, 1983, a girl by the name of Linda Mann went missing. Her body was found on a footpath the following morning. Her post-mortem had revealed that she had been raped and strangled to death. A semen sample was also retrieved from her body. However, with insufficient evidence at the time of her death, the case eventually went cold. She was only 15. On a separate occasion, on July 31st, 1986, another girl named Dawn Ashworth went missing. Her body was found 2 days after she had been raped, strangled, and beaten to death. She was also only 15. Linda's case once again became critical due to the fact that a semen sample was also found on Ashworth's body. The investigation of the first crime could now continue with newfound evidence. The police in the area had originally suspected a 17-year-old named Richard Birkland, who seemed to have knowledge of Dawn's body and actually admitted to the crime under questioning. This would have seemed to settle it then and there. However, with new technology, the case could further be explored. A new DNA technique was developed where a sample could produce a unique DNA fingerprint from the DNA sample. This technique, in turn, proved that it was not in fact Birkland, since it did not match either of the semen samples. The investigation continued as the Leicestershire Constabulary and the Forensic Science Service teamed up to conduct a project where 5,000 men in the area were asked to send in either blood or saliva samples in order to compare DNA. After a long 6 months, no samples had matched, but not all was lost. After a piece of gossip got out, the investigation was able to extend its reach. A local named Ian Kelly was overheard bragging about being paid $200 to give a sample for one of his friends. The friend in question was Colin Pitchfork. Pitchfork was born on March 23, 1960, in Bristol, England, making him 23 and 26 at the time of the murders. On September 19, 1987, Colin Pitchfork was arrested and was sampled for his DNA, which matched the samples at the scenes. He admitted to the rape and murder of the girls and was sentenced to life imprisonment. During subsequent questioning, he had also admitted to flashing females over 1,000 times, starting in his early teens, which then led him to sexually assault, and he would strangle his victims in order to protect his identity. This would have been the end of it had it not been for his legal appeal. In 2009, on May 14th, Pitchfork's legal appeal was heard at the Court of Appeal at the Royal Courts of Justice. He won his appeal of his original minimum of 30-year imprisonment and got it reduced to 28 years. This made him eligible for release in 2016. Some of the things mentioned in his hearing included him being now educated to degree level and is now an expert at the transcription of printed music into Braille, and that he hopes to one day help the blind. This evidence was presented by his legal team as proof that he had changed. While in prison, Pitchfork had made a sculpture that was entered into the Koestler Trust anonymously. The Koestler Trust is a charity that was founded by Arthur Koestler that runs an award scheme for prisoners. The sculpture in question was a choir and orchestra, crafted by cutting and folding pieces of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. It was insultingly titled, "Bringing Music to Life." When the knowledge of who made the sculpture finally got out, it sparked a public outrage. Pitchfork had gained around £300 out of £600 proceeds, and had also used the sculpture to further bargain for his freedom. In a message beside the sculpture, Pitchfork wrote, "Without this opportunity to show our art, many of us would have no incentive. We would stay locked in ourselves as much as the walls that hold us." Despite this show of craft, there is no denying that the victims would never be able to show what they could bring into the world, as now they would be adults, potentially with teenage children of their own, and they will never get to experience that. Kath, Linda Mann's mother, stated that paying her daughter's evil, wicked, and cruel murderer for his creation displayed a lack of conscience. She also stated, This man is supposed to be in prison for what he did. He raped and killed two 15-year-old girls just because they were there, and we should never forget that. A friend of Don Ashworth's family, named Kelvin Donaghy, created a memorial website for the dead girls, which I was unfortunately not able to find, and told the Mail, "Linda was good at art, and so was Don. They never got the chance to have their works exhibited, yet the man who took their lives away not only has that, but earns money from it too." Officials at the Royal Festival Hall eventually removed Pitchfork's sculpture due to the outrage it had caused. The story doesn't end there, however. In 2021, a hearing took place, where the parole board eventually decided that Pitchfork qualified to be released from prison under specific conditions. A verdict that I very much disagree with, as well as the victims' loved ones. Members of Parliament and the victims' family members fought to have the government formally challenge the decision on the grounds that it was irrational. It describes an incident where Pitchfork lied to a female shop worker while out of prison on license and told her he was married, even though he wasn't, after gifting her chocolates to, quote, thank her for fixing his phone, end quote. This was ultimately rejected by a judge-led review in July 2021, leaving any opposers powerless to halt the release. The whole situation is absolutely atrocious and heartbreaking.
It's an eventuality that we as a family were dreading. I take the view that there are some crimes, fortunately not very many, but some crimes that are so notorious as this was and so traumatized the community at the time, and some crimes that are just not paroleable, that really do deserve a life tariff, and the murder and rape of children is one such crime. His release, as far as I'm concerned, shows total disregard for the value of the lives of Linda Mann and my niece. And also I think it's taking a very big risk with the children in the families of the community where he's to be relocated, because it's an experiment as to whether or not he's safe to be a member of the public again. Risk assessments is not an exact science. The authorities that have upheld this decision to release him are subjecting those children in the community where he's to be released to an experiment as to whether or not he's safe to be. I only hope they've got it right, because I certainly don't want anybody else, any other child or a child's family, to have gone through what my family has, and what Dawn has, of course.
Barbara Ashworth, Dawn's mother, stated, "Well, it was on the books that he was going to be released, but I don't think he should be breathing the same air as us." She also stated, "It goes without saying life should have meant life in this case. Because he said he was guilty of the offenses, the murders of both the girls, and he did a lot more besides." The parole board said that Pitchfork's restrictions consisted of, but were not limited to, having a curfew, living at a designated address, taking part in probation supervision, participating in lie detector tests, wearing an electronic tag, disclosing who he speaks to and what vehicles he uses, as well as having particular limits on contact with children. He was also banned from entering Leicestershire without permission. This system would eventually be proven to be expectedly arbitrary, as Pitchfork was called back to prison after a license breach. He had started approaching women again, on multiple occasions where he was out on walks from the bail hostel where he was living. Barbara told the Daily Mail that it is worrying that he is approaching young women in this manner. It just goes to show that a leopard never changes its spots. He was arrested when probation staff raised concerns about his behavior. Ashworth's mother stated that she was pleased that he's been put away and women and girls are safe and protected from him now. It's a safer place when he's behind bars, and I won't have to worry about other people being hurt by him for the time being. But there's always the worry that he might get out again, He seems to have a lot of people on his side who give him the benefit of the doubt. A statement that is proven to be all too true by this entire case. But for now, I have to be pleased about the news. Colin Pitchfork's case is not for the faint of heart, as the lying and domineering child rapist and murderer shows no real remorse, is very calculating in how he attempts to get what he wants, and is overall a pathetic excuse of a human. For now, he has since been locked up for the crimes he committed, resulting in a bigger sense of closure for the victims' families. I hope that one day the families and loved ones of the victims find peace and never have to deal with a monster like Pitchfork ever again.